AEW and WWE are dealing with changes, and in this video, we're going to break it down because with WWE, there's a major change coming, and we're going to talk about that. And then with AEW, they're starting off the year at a deficit. They're starting off the year in not the greatest of ways, and I feel like we have to talk about it. So let's start with WWE because 2023 was such a strong year for the company, right? They broke attendance records, popularity was through the roof. They did record dates all around the world, not just the United States. We had the continuation of the dominant reign as undisputed Universal Champion and Roman Reigns. We had the return of CM Punk to WWE, and we had the TKO merger where UFC and WWE merged together to form TKO. Vince McMahon lost more power, and Triple H has obtained more power as the showrunner. But they're starting off the year in a very interesting way because Kevin Dunn is no longer overseeing WWE programming. Yes, Kevin Dunn. You've heard of that name. So, who is that name exactly? Well, let me give you a quick history lesson. Kevin Dunn was one of Vince McMahon's most trusted employees. He was one of the most influential people behind the scenes after decades of being with the company. And he recently gave his notice to WWE, something confirmed by WWE President Nick Khan, because Dunn had overseen the TV production end of WWE programming for years. And while he once had a very strong say within the company, that had decreased over the last year when Vince McMahon started losing power and he was no longer in charge. And the departure came down to the changes being made internally since TKO took over after the merger. There was one source that told PW Insider or Fightful Select. I honestly can't really remember, but either way, they said that Dunn was never going to do anything that was dictated to him. He also didn't want to alter the production style compared to how he saw it, and now he's on his way out. Nick Khan confirmed this in a lengthy interview or a statement, memo, if you will, company email sent out. And I thought this was interesting. I wanted to read this passage from the end of the email because it's kind of lengthy and I just simply don't want to bore y'all. But he said this: when you see our product now, there is nothing that comes close to the look or feel. 52 weeks a year, 3 to 4 times a week. It is singular and truly special. No other company can or will do that, and that is because of Kevin and our media's team hard work, smarts, and determinations. We are forever grateful to Kevin. He will always be part of the WWE family. End quote. So what do you take away from this news? Well, look, Kevin Dunn had been criticized for years with his production look, right? Think about all of the several camera cuts, camera zoom ins during matches. Like it was almost like he had ADHD and he couldn't stay still without clicking the button or telling someone, all right, switch to camera A, then B, then C, or however production works, camera 1, 2, or 3, right? It was just one of those. And for years, people wondered, okay, what would happen if Kevin Dunn was no longer in charge, right? What happens if Vince McMahon dies and Triple H takes over creative? Because it had been well documented that Triple H and Stephanie were not fans of Kevin Dunn. There was a lot of people within WWE that were not fans of Kevin Dunn. But he saved the tape library back in the 70s or 80s or however the story goes. And Vince McMahon essentially just saw him as one of his trusted allies, right? And so he stayed around, despite the fact that not a lot of people liked him, and despite the fact that he was kind of a prick to deal with. But he stayed around, right? There's been countless stories of this. Well, Vince McMahon got pushed out of power. Then he decided he was going to, get acquired by the Endeavor Group, and here we are. Vince McMahon's no longer in charge. Kevin Dunn is out. Triple H is overseeing creative. Nick Khan is taking over the business aspect of the company, and Stephanie McMahon, she's at home being a mom and enjoying life. Now let's switch gears to AEW. AEW starting off 2024 in a very, very interesting spot because they're coming out of World's End, the pay-per-view event, which saw the reveal of Adam Cole as the Devil. They saw the crowning of Samoa Joe as AEW World Heavyweight Champion, and we saw MJF essentially being written off television. Now, coming into the show, we knew that MJF was going to be taking time off. He had been dealing with countless injuries, including shoulder and a hip injury. And it came at a time where he went from a hated heel, a true heel in the wrestling business, something that is rare these days, to making the transition to a lovable babyface and more of a tweener, if you really want to break it down, a Steve Austin-esque type of guy, because he's not a lovable white meat babyface from the 80s, right, where they tell you to take your vitamins and say your prayers and all that horse, but like a guy that he's not fully a baby face, but you like him, right? And Adam Cole obviously helped that. But he had written in the Players Tribune that, yeah, he understands that things have kind of died down with his babyface run coming into World's End. I digress. So it was expected that he was going to be taking time off. We knew this, and now it has been essentially confirmed because he's been pulled from the talent roster on the roster webpage of AEW.com. And that also plays in the fact of he had been playing up come January 1st, 2024, that he would, essentially look over his future, his options, whether he stays with AEW or he goes to WWE. Because although he had stopped talking about the bidding war of 2024, a lot of people thought that he had actually re-signed with the company secretly before he became world champion last year. And I think he has re-signed. I think he's just so beat up that he needs time off. And that's fine. Like, give him his time off. He did a heck of a run this year. He has been their top guy. Okay. I understand that some people look at like a John Moxley as AEW's top guy, a guy that they can rely on in certain spots, and they've certainly done that. But it's interesting because AEW, look, they're in an interesting spot because they're entering this transition period from being a startup company to a newer company, right? There's a huge difference in that aspect. You also have a situation where you're trying to lock down a new TV deal as their existing deal with Warner Bros. Discovery expires at the end of 2024. And then you also have it where you have kind of a split within the company, right? It's not just the talent roster. You also have behind the scenes because there have been several notable departures. QT Marshall, gone. He was a huge influence behind the scenes on creative and as a trainer. You also have Dana Massey, the wife of Matt Jackson, who overlooked marketing and all the t-shirt designs and merchandising aspect. She is gone. Kevin Sullivan, in the production side of things, his departure was not met very well within the company, as Mike Mansoor, someone who came from WWE, someone that was looked upon as the protege or the replacement of Kevin Dunn as like the director of WWE programming. Well, he has come in with an iron fist and he has swung his weight. And while a lot of people like him, there was a lot of people in the existing TV production department of AEW that were Mike Mansoor or excuse me, Kevin Sullivan type people, right? They're his people. They brought him in. They were hired by him, right? So it's an interesting dynamic at an interesting time in AEW history, and one that is going to be fun to follow.